In his book, Atomic Habits, James Clear tells a story about the professional cycling team in the UK. In 2003, they hired a new professional or performance director, new coach. He was hired to put British cycling on a new level, a new trajectory. What made him different from previous coaches was his commitment to strategy that he referred to as marginal gains. It's the philosophy of searching for tiny marginal improvements in everything you do. So this coach said, the whole principle came from the idea that if you broke down everything you could think of that goes into the riding a bike and then improve it by 1%, improve each part by 1%, you will get a significant increase when you put them all together. This way, each part of a larger system works towards the mutual collective aim, achieving the best possible result for all. Just as 1% improvement in all parts individually can lead to a substantial improvement in the entire system. Believing in each other and allowing all parts of a larger system to improve is the key to the success of the whole group. One of the key insights from the working in a large team, in any large team, not just cycling team, is learning to deal with different, sometimes opposing views. Taking the example from cycling, some systems appear to, some parts of the cycling of a bicycle appears to contradict each other and work against each other. For example, the ability to gain speed very quickly and the ability to brake fast can be seen as mutually exclusive, especially if one cannot see a larger picture where both are important. So in this week's Torah portion, we read a story about how these opposing views, how division about people and their inability to see and listen to each other led to an irreversible disaster for all. It was perhaps the single greatest collective failure of leadership in the Torah. This week's Torah portion talks about the famous 12 spies episode. As written in the book of Numbers, in this week's Torah portion, the group of Israelite leaders, one from each tribe, each 12 tribes, whom Moses asked to go and look at the land of Canaan as a potential future home for the Israelite people. And the result is familiar, I think, to many of you. Only 2 spies came with an encouraging message, saying, yes, this land is good enough, let's go. The other 10 came back with a negative report. They said, we came to the land to which you sent us. It flows with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. However, the people who dwell in the land are strong, and the cities are fortified and very, very large. We are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we are. The land through which we have gone to spy it out is a land that devours its inhabitants. And all the people that we saw in it are of great height. We seemed to ourselves like grasshoppers, so we seemed to them. So many people today, including generations of rabbinic interpretations, read this text and accuse these 10 spies of disbelief, of disloyalty, and even of betrayal of the common cause of conquering the land, getting the land that was promised by God. And perhaps it was true. And the task of conquering the promised land was nearly impossible. Other people were living there, and the idea of invading the land and conquering the cities was unthinkable for the majority of the spies. But in the eyes of Torah commentators, these 10 spies made an inexcusable mistake, even though they were probably correct. They made people feel small, unable to achieve anything. This is what commentator after commentator say. Their sin is making their own people feel small. But let's try to look at this story from today's a bit more inclusive and pluralistic perspective. Perhaps we can view this report not as an act of disloyalty, but as a helpful and realistic report. Why can't we see them as telling a difficult, complex truth and preparing people for a difficult battle? After all, if you were in a position of an army commander or a leader, what would you want from your spies, from people who give you information? Blind encouragement or real pragmatism? These 10 spies perhaps chose real pragmatism. And I found something really interesting in a later, or in quite an early, later than Torah, but quite an early rabbinic interpretations. So try to follow me. According to the Mishnah, the transgression of spies occurred on the 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av, the collective day marking all disasters in Jewish history. This day in Jewish history, time after time, is associated with catastrophes that has fallen on this day, or believed to have fallen on this day. Both the first and second temple were destroyed, and many other national disasters, including the First and Second World Wars, were attributed to having fallen on the 9th day of the Hebrew month Av. That day was later institutionalized as a national day of fast, 25 hours with no food or water, just like Yom Kippur. The story of spies was the origin story for that day. So it all started, according to rabbis, with the spies, the 10 spies giving the negative report. The first tragedy that led to others over and over again. So what was so bad about it? In Talmudic literature, in Talmud, rabbis reflected on this day and tried to articulate other lessons, other sides of, or other reasons for the disasters to happen. And this is just a quote, a little extract from their conversation. Tractat Yoma has this debate. What was the reason, rabbis ask? What was the reason for the destruction of the first temple? And they quickly answer, because of the 3 evil things that were prevailed there. So people were involved in idolatry, immorality, and bloodshed. However, they thought a bit more and took an example of the second temple. Why was second temple destroyed? Because at that time, people occupied themselves with Torah, so that they were not immoral. They observed all the precepts. They could not have possibly be involved in idolatry, and they involved practice of charity. And the answer is fascinating. Because they said the second temple was destroyed due to sinat chinam, hatred without cause, or baseless hatred among people. So what is it, this hatred without cause? This is named as the reason for one of the most significant and devastating disasters in Jewish history. And I think that by articulating this, those rabbis implicitly made a commentary on all other tragedies of the Jewish people attributed on the 9th of Av. Instead of looking for the outside enemies, they looked inside, and they said, well, maybe it's because of us, maybe because we were more interested in fighting each other, in baseless hatred of each other. So it was not the fact of criticism of the 10 spies that led to punishment or of wandering in the desert, not the warning against powerful enemies, but the fact that people could not see 10 as part of 12. They saw the split between 2 and 12 spies and used it to promote hatred instead of seeing them as two sides of the common goal, those two dimensions of the same people. It was the failure of leadership to see disagreement as a blessing, not a curse, as a gift, not division. It was not the fault of the 10, it was the failure of all who caused sinat chinam, baseless hatred, unnecessary animosity among the people. Instead of saying, thank you for your warning, it's realistic, it's possible, but we will try nevertheless, they stopped. So this Shabbat, as we read this story, let us hope that one day we will live in a society that empowers people, that has faith in people, and most importantly, doesn't promote sinat chinam, baseless hatred, but rather ahavat sinam, baseless and unconditional acceptance of all. Shabbat Shalom.